In this final part of our tutorial, we're just going to improve the design of our app. So we've already made the layout and kind of added everything we need, and then we've implemented the functionality. Now we have this app that works well but doesn't necessarily look so great. So we're going to change the color scheme and the layout and the text and everything, and just kind of make this look like a good usable app that users are actually going to want to use, because it's important to have an app that's both functional and looks good. Alright, so we've done all of the functionality in our app. The time is now to actually make our layout look nice and make our app look usable. So we're going to close our viewcontroller.swift, we no longer need that, and we're going to close this up. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch back to this view here, which is just the standard editor. So if we press that, it kind of opens only one file at a time. Now, so this is just our main.storyboard, and this is what our layout looks like. However, we don't have our tools available, just going to close that. So we're going to open up this sidebar, and that will bring up our, oh, weird, it closed again. Okay, and now that's going to bring up our toolbox. So how do we want to make this look better? Well, we can change the layout a little bit, we can change the background color, and text color and font, and stuff like that. So we could set a background image if we want. However, I don't really have any images saved on this computer, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to give it a color. Now let's see, as an average calculator, what kind of a color should we have as the background? I like to use a lot of blues in my apps, but this time I'm going to do something different. I'm going to use this kind of tangerine orange. And I don't know whether you guys like this or not. It's very bright and a little garish, but that's fine. We'll just go with it. So just going to set the background color there. And the next thing I'll do is this edit text. I'm going to change the border. Or this text field. I'm going to change the border to no border, because that allows me to increase the size, and I just don't really like the border around it. What we can do is we can take this, and just to make it more visible, we can just try giving it a different background color. So if we try, I don't want that up. If we select the arrows and we go light text color, often that creates a nice effect, and it does indeed. That actually looks pretty good. So I'm just going to leave that as is. The labels I'll leave to contain the same background. The next thing will just be changing the button backgrounds. Now I find blue and orange often go well together, so I'm going to change the background to some shade of blue. Now we can go ocean, or we can go midnight, we can go blueberry, or we can go aqua. I'm kind of torn between midnight and ocean, to be honest. I almost like midnight just a little bit better. So I'm going to change that to midnight, and I'm going to change this to midnight as well. That's just going to be the background. We want change to, there we go, to midnight. Okay, and so now we have our backgrounds all changed. We can go about kind of resizing everything a little bit. So I'm just going to go to the size inspector up here, and now we're going to fine tune how big we want everything to be. So this I'm just going to change to be, 10 and 300. Now, just so you guys know, if we click on the view, so that's the view itself and not on anything, we can get our dimensions. So we know the width is 320 units wide and the height is 568 units long. Okay, so it's good to know those so that we can determine our boundaries from there. So this was 10 and 300. I'm going to change this to 45, and as the height I'm going to increase that manually. Just going to change it to there. This input I'm just going to bring down a little bit. I'm going to change this to 20 and 280. We don't need this to be as wide as it is, but that's okay. The height I'm going to change to be 130, and I'm just going to move this button down to make room, so move everything down right to the bottom. And this I'm actually going to change to, I'm going to change that to 150, just because this is probably going to be over 2 lines, and that way we can expand that all the way out to here. Now for the height, I'm going to change this to 50, because we want this to be big and really stand out. The calculate button now, we're going to change to, let's have this at 20, and at 280 again. And in fact, let's make that just a little bigger, or a little smaller. We'll do 30 and 260. This I'm going to move up to, let's try 220. And yeah, that's pretty good. And the height, I'll change to, let's try 50 right now, and that's pretty good itself. Okay, so now the display average, let's do a 20 and a 280. In fact, because this is a display, let's do a 300 and a 10. As for the height, we're going to do 300. And you know, we can even go 290. And then, or for the y coordinate, and then we're going to go for height, we're going to go set this to 100, and that will be plenty big enough, I think. In fact, we could even go bigger, we could go 120. Now for the reset button, we're going to go 30 and 260 again, not 390. And then we're going to go, what's this at right now? We'll stick with 430 actually, that's a pretty good height. And then we're going to go, oh, that's a pretty good position, like Y position. And then for height, we're going to go 50 again, same as the other button. Okay, so the last step will be to modify the actual text itself. So now we're going to have to go back to Attributes Inspector, and we're going to give these some colors. So I like the black text. I like the black on the orange background. So we'll keep that as it is. In fact, I want to see what it looks like with blue. So if we change it back to this kind of midnight blue, what do we think? Does that look better or worse? I think it almost looks worse, to be honest. I'm going to change it back to the default black. And I'm going to close this up. Okay, and now let's change the text colors of all of these. This one I'm going to change to see what this looks like with an orange. It might look a little tacky, but sometimes it's actually pretty good. What do you guys think? Is that pretty good? Should we change it to white? I think white might be a little too bright. And if it was, let's take a look at the orange again. I kind of like the orange on there actually. So I'm going to keep it as orange. And same with this, going to keep that as orange. And these are fine to be black. This one that's fine to be black. Now the only thing to note is going to be the placeholder text. And unfortunately, although we can change the size, and we can change the font and everything else, we cannot change a placeholder text color. So this sometimes makes this hard to see if we include it in a field with a dark background. So just keep that in mind when you're designing your color schemes. Okay, so for this, the first thing I'm going to do is the number of lines. I'm going to change to 2. In fact, I'll change it to 3, although I doubt we'll need that. And the same with this. We'll change to 3 lines. And this just enables the text to be displayed over 3 lines rather than just 1. Because unless we change this, it will try and cram all the text into just 1 line. Then we're going to center the text. And we're going to change the font. So we'll click on this T. We're going to go to Custom. Under Family, we're going to go Avenir. And we're going to go not black because that's the heaviest, but we're going to go heavy. And we're going to increase this to size 30. And it doesn't quite fit. Let's try 25. And there we go. That's pretty good. So calculate the average of the numbers inputted. I'm just going to put the in there, and that should be good to go. Okay, so this is just like a little title text. We don't need this to be particularly bold or fancy. This one we're going to center. I'm going to change the text again to Avenir, and I like to have kind of one font for all of the text fields, but again, if this is the app that you're developing, then feel free to change this to look however you guys want it to look. I'm going to change this to 30. And there we go. Could even make this bigger. Let's try 35. Cool. And now for this, again, same thing. And again, if you don't like the color scheme even, feel free to change it. I'm just kind of showing you some of the schemes that you can have and some of the things you can do. And we're going to change this to black. And this one's going to be 35. We'll try. It might be too big. It's a bit too big, a bit too bright and in your face. So there we go. Going to do that. Display average. This one needs to be centered. We're going to, again, custom Avenir. And this one's going to be, this one will change to black. This one should be, actually, you know what? Let's go with heavy. We're going to go 30, and we could even try 40, actually, because we want this to really stand out. As long as it's over more than 1 line, then we're good to go. And the last one's going to be the reset button. We're going to do exactly the same thing. And so when you're trying to publish apps to the Apple Store, they kind of encourage you to keep your designs as minimalistic as possible, so as simple as you can. So that means trying not to have too many colors and stuff like that within your app design. Okay, well, there you have it. I think it looks pretty good. I don't know about you guys. If you have other opinions, that's perfectly fine. You're entitled to your own. But I kind of like the way it looks right now. We're going to go ahead and run it one more time. And if all goes well, and it should, then we will be done building our app. Here we go. Our simulator's opened up. Good stuff. So let's enter some numbers. And we know everything's working as it should. And we'll reset this. And good stuff. So let's say we do that. And reset. And there we go. So everything is working as it should. This is good stuff. Our app is good. And this is pretty much done. Alright, good stuff. Good work, guys. And congratulations on making it through the tutorial. We'll just do a brief little outro video. And then we'll be good to go. In this part of the tutorial, all we did was we improved the design of the app. So we kind of designed the layout first, then we did the functionality, and then in this part we just kind of made the app look good. So we improved the UI. So we changed the colors, we fine-tuned the layout, and that involved adjusting the margins and stuff. And then we also changed the text style and included a different font and changed the text color and size and everything like that. So by now, you should be able to build this app from scratch, so from start to finish. And if there are some parts you're still unsure about, go ahead and rewatch those. And then we're just going to do a brief outro and a summary coming right up. Alright, so there we have it. We have our finished app, and this is what it ended up looking like. We started off with just a blank canvas. There was nothing on here. Then we added the elements in. We added in the label just to display, or rather just to tell us what we're doing. We have the edit text, or the text field rather. We have the calculate button, this label to display our final average, and then the reset button. So we added all of those in, then added them to the text here in the viewcontroller.swift. And then we added in our button functions, which were the press calculate button and the press reset button. And then once we'd implemented those, we implemented the rest of the functionality. So basically all we did is we said once a calculate button's pressed, we're going to take in the input, we're going to increase count by 1, then we're going to calculate the average based on what the new total and now the current average are. Then we are going to output our average into our display average text. And if not, then if we didn't enter anything, then we're just going to have this other text being displayed. And otherwise, we have the reset button, which just resets everything to 0 and sets our label back to display average. So fairly simple functionality in this app. There was nothing particularly complicated about the math involved. However, in some of the future apps to come, in this course, there will be some other kinds of calculators, and they'll involve more complicated calculations and more complicated functionality. I just wanted to give you guys a simple app to kind of get used to the process of app development in Xcode. So again, for all of the tutorials, or for most of them at least, this is how we're going to be formatting it. We'll start with just designing the layout, then doing the functionality, and then improving the design. And again, for all of them, if you don't really like the design we've chosen, that is perfectly fine. I mean, past this tutorial, I might not be using this app, but you might be. So, you know, if you want to make it look however you want it to look, then kudos to you. Otherwise, play around with it a little bit and maybe see what other kind of functionality you can implement within this app. Okay, so it's pretty simple right now, but you can make it as complicated or as kind of customizable as you'd like it to be. And that's really the beauty of these apps, is that we're showing you how to do just kind of the basics, and then from there it's up to you to explore what you can do with them, because there's really limitless possibilities. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching this video. This was how to create a simple average calculator in Xcode 8.0, the beta 2 version, and we used Swift 3 as our language. Okay, thank you again, hope you learned a lot, and hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and we will see you next time.